Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this little card. Now this card is just a little bit different in that I've used my alcohol markers, but I've used them in a completely different kind of way, and I'm going to bring this up to the camera here so you can see it. It's creating a different kind of background wash, and that's what I'd like to show you what I did. And for this, to make this card, and I'm going to change the sentiment to best wishes, we need a card base, and I used Old Olive, and this card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then we need a piece of Whisper White that's 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside of the card. And then we need some copper, and this piece of copper is 3 inches by 4 1/2. Then I have a piece of Bermuda Bay that is 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And finally I have a piece of this very pretty DSP, which is part of the Sale Abrasion free designer series specialty paper that's available when you make an order of $50. And I've done a lot with this paper, but I'll show the paper again. It's 4 sheets each of this dotted design, this striped design, this beautiful floral design, and then this design here that is leaf sprays with silver and gold. And these colors here and this are copper. So that's what I'm using today. Let's see, I also have a couple of other small pieces. I have a piece of Bermuda Bay that is 4 inches by 3/4, and then I have another piece that is 4 inches by, I think it's a half. Yes, a half. Then I have 2 pieces here that this one is 1 inch by 3, and then this one is 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/4 of an inch, and that's for our sentiment here. And then I'll be using some decorative elements here, and we'll talk about them as we get there. So let's just get started. The thing I'd like to show that's kind of fun with this one is a different kind of technique for using your alcohol markers. And so I'm going to need a nice big piece of scratch paper here, and I'm just going to fold one of these grid sheets. These things are wonderful for all kinds of reasons. This one got itself water damaged, so it will be perfect for this. All right, so there we go. I'm using 2 alcohol markers. I'm using the dark Old Olive and the dark Bermuda Bay. And that's all of those that we need for this. The other thing is I am using some rubbing alcohol isopropyl. This one is 91%, and I would say that that would be the minimum, 91% to 100%, and it's basically rubbing alcohol that you can get for a couple bucks at Walmart or Target or the grocery store for that matter. So it's a real simple, easy things to get your hands on, and can be kind of give you some interesting effects working with these markers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my marker here, and I'm just going to start in the corner, and I'm just going to scribble some of that color on the end of my little piece of card here, and I'm going to scribble another bunch of it here, and maybe another bunch down here in this corner, and some over here, and then I'm going to fill in with this green. And since I did that corner in green, I think I want this corner in the Bermuda Bay so that it doesn't look too symmetrical. And it's okay if you cross over from one to the other, because we're going to be messing with it a little bit here to get this kind of an effect. So again, I'm going to just scribble in some color here and add some more. And this is all just, there's no way to not do this right. It's just whatever strikes you. And I just am this time using 2 colors. There is no reason you can't use more than that. But I wanted to keep this simple to show the technique. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in the little places that are left that are white and get everything covered. Okay, now what we're going to do, and I have just a plain old inexpensive paintbrush here, and I'm going to take my alcohol and I'm just going to drop some of this alcohol on this little card front here. And you can see the alcohol is starting to mix with the color that's on there. And you can put a little or a lot. You can put little dabs or big dabs. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to have you watch here while I tilt this one way and the other. And in fact, to get some of the color to move around, you can just blow on it. And you get some interesting patterns as the alcohol gets blown across the front of the card. And you can add more until you're happy with the design. And I probably should have poured some of this in the cap. I'm going to do that now. Fortunately, it's alcohol and will dry fairly quickly. But you can keep adding to this until you get a pattern that you kind of like. And with this, you can also go back in and add some additional color wherever and add more alcohol to get more of the different colors spread around different places. And then depending on what you kind of like here, in fact, I think I'm going to add a little bit of green down in this corner over here because it's got too much blue for me. I'm going to let this dry for a second because what happens is that as long as it's wet, it won't let you put down the new color. You'll remember I said before that when you add color, when you are wet, you blend. And when you do it after it's dried, you layer on color. And so there we go, because that's a little drier now, I can get a little bit more color laid down on top of there. And there I'm going to add a little bit of that. And actually, I think that's just fine. I like that pattern. It's a little more intense than this one. And believe me, you will never get 2 to turn out exactly the same, which is part of the fun of using this particular technique. I just love it. It's so different. And then we've got that beautiful copper in the background. And I'm going to use a dry baby wipe here to pick up the excess here, and we're going to give that just a second to dry. And while we're doing that, I'm going to take my banner here to make my sentiment, and I am using my Best Wishes from the Petal Palette suite, this pretty little Best Wishes in here, because and if you followed me, you know I make lots of note cards and lots of thank yous, and then lots of things that are pretty much not designated. Just because I never know what it is I'm going to want to do with this later. I might want to make it a birthday card. And this way, if it says best wishes, I can have my happy birthday be on the inside. Those kinds of things make me pretty happy. So I'm going to take this stamp and I'm going to make my stamping sort of close to this end, to the left here. I'm going to set that on my grid paper to help me get this straight. And there. I think that's middle and straight. We'll see. Pretty good. Okay. Now, I don't know if I've showed this on camera before, but have you ever watched somebody make banner tails and they're not symmetrical? Well, this is a way to make sure your banner tails are symmetrical. I cut this piece of copper 1/4 of an inch all the way around, larger than this piece. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this Bermuda Bay piece against the edge of that copper piece so that it's flush and even from side to side. And I think that's just about there. And then I'm going to take my snips, my paper snips here, making sure that that is absolutely flush. And then holding this very tightly because you don't want it to slip, what I'm going to do is cut up the center and cut both pieces at once and then go from the corner back over to the center until I meet up with that center line. And it did slip just a little, so I'm going to put it back and then come up on this side and cut again right to that center cut. And then what happens is when you slide this back, you've got a perfectly symmetrical banner tail. And for most of us, it doesn't matter all that much, but it is nice. If you're a symmetrical person, those kinds of things can make you crazy. So thought I would show how you do that. Now, I'm sticking this to a piece of copper foil. And I know from experience that not everything sticks to the copper foil. At least sticks to it very well. There's my pokey tool. I'm going to add some glue dots to the back of this banner. Couple of them so that it doesn't move around. And these glue dots will stick to almost anything, including glitter. At least reasonably, it will. All right, so I'm going to set this down here and create my little banner. Now this piece should be completely dry. It is, and I'm going to use that dry baby wipe now to kind of go over and take any excess ink off of the copper dots. It doesn't pick up all of it, but it cleans it up just a little. And then our copper dots show through. Isn't that just very pretty? I love this. I think this would be beautiful as a whole background panel, and then doing some stamping over the top of it. I may yet have to mess with that. So this piece is going to get centered on this piece here, and for that I can just use my snail. This would be fun technique to try on a much larger piece and then do some other fun and interesting things. And this paper has, this designer series paper has a glossy top. And this kind of a technique you want to do on something that is glossy and not absorbent. So working on this designer series paper is perfect. I'm loving the way this little panel came out. Very pretty. Okay, so there we go. And now I'm going to glue that onto my copper panel. I just thought the combination of picking up the copper again from the dots was pretty attractive. And again, I'm sticking it onto foil paper, so I'm going to use glue dots. Okay, I'm going to center this piece on here. Here we go. And then I did put this piece up on dimensionals. I thought it added a little bit to the card to have it a little bit raised. I'm going to put my panel, I think this way, right here, a little bit more to one side than the other. And then on this piece, I only need a dimensional on this end and a couple of glue dots on this end to make this stay down. I'm going to put that right in there. Isn't that just pretty? I think it's very, very attractive and a little bit different. Okay, so now what I did on embellishments is I've got some of these enamel dots, and then I've got some of these white enamel dots. And what I did was I used my alcohol marker to just color a couple of these in the Bermuda Bay, because I didn't really have a Bermuda Bay color in these. The green works beautifully, but the Bermuda Bay not so much. Okay, so I had put just a nice collection of these dots kind of going up the page. So I'm going to use a combination of the glitter dots and these colored in dots here. I'm going to use a larger one of these in here. And I just thought it's just sort of random up the page, and using some of the larger ones and some of the smaller ones here, and maybe one more of the green right up here. And I thought that that just added a little bit of extra interest, sort of bells and whistles, if you will, to the card. Now, the inside of the card, again, is very simple. I'm going to add my 2 pieces of cardstock and copper to the bottom of my 4-inch panel, just using snail. Move a couple of these things out of the way, for the moment at least. And so this we can just accomplish with snail. Very simple. So this goes on here, and I'm doing this before I put it on my card, just in case I haven't cut perfectly and need to do some trimming. You don't get a bad surprise and it's already on your card. And there is just a sliver of that glue that needs to come off. And so, in fact, sometimes I cut these longer just so that I can trim them off, so that they fit perfectly when we're ready to actually put them in place. Okay, so, this is the back of the copper, which has got that kind of plastic coating on it. And again, things don't stick very well, so I'm going to use some glue dots on this to get it put in place. And I'm going to put several down this strip. And then I'm going to set this also so that it goes end to end across my trim piece. All right, I think I have a little bit of trimming to do on that copper piece as well. Okay, there we go. Now I can just use my snail on the back of this card and put this piece in place. And Here we go. Nice and attractive, and I'm going to bring a couple of these things back and add this as a little decoration on the inside. So I'm going to add one of the larger ones up here in the corner, and then a couple of these smaller of the Bermuda Bay on either side around that corner. And there we go. That is today's project. So I've got little bits of glue here I need to make sure I get taken off. And right along here. All right, very good. So that is the project for the day. And a nice, simple card, and yet very different, and I think very attractive. Again, another way to use your Stampin' Blends, and I think I like this panel. This one is much lighter and had much lighter edges around it than this one. The color's more intense, and I think I like that better. So you'll have to weigh in and tell me which one you think you like better. But that's the project for today. Thanks so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And or you could join my team. There's 1 month left, the month of March, to join with the extra 2 free stamp sets that Stampin' Up! Is offering. And I'd love to have you on my team. So right now, with the $40 in product you get from me, as well as the 2 free stamp sets, it's pretty darn easy to put together a package for yourself of $200 or more in Stampin' Up! Products for the $99. And of course, there's no shipping on a starter kit. So the prize draw, let's see, the prize draw for February was won by Jeanette Hardy. Jeanette won 2-month subscription to Paper Pumpkin. And she was not a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, so she gets to try it out now. Now for the month of March, my prize draw is the Brusho Crystal Colors. So a set of the Brusho Crystals and a 2-pack set of Aqua Painters. And that is a $47 value in the catalog, and that will be great fun for somebody to win and mess around with those crystal colors. They're just a lot of fun. So thanks again for stopping by. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any videos, and feel free to share the videos, and I'll be back soon with more projects and more cards. Bye!